All right. So, I like to base these videos on the state that I'm in. Whatever meditation I'm doing it primarily for myself. And I find that that's the most effective way for me to teach, is to just go off of what's present right now. So that's what I'm going to do today. We're going to be doing some Tonglen meditation, which I learned mainly from Pema Chodron's work. If you don't know Pema, she's just brilliant Tibetan Buddhist nun teacher. And there was a recording of a retreat done 20 years ago called Going to the Places That Scare You, that I've been listening to over and over again for the last 10 years. And there's just so much juicy goodness in it. So that's kind of where I'm getting this knowledge and inspiration from, and then just putting it into practice. So I'll say a little bit about Tonglen before we begin, but I want to start by just dropping in a little bit. So I like to do that through movement. So just go ahead and do whatever your body needs here. I recently did a Zazen training, and have augmented my practice to be more Zazen oriented. So I might say a couple things about that. One of those things is that for the duration of the meditation, I'm going to do my best to not move at all, to be completely still, which is a challenge for me. So I encourage you to do the same. I think there's a lot of value to be gained from that. If one of the primary goals of meditation is to develop the willingness and ability to be with what is, then not moving provides a great opportunity for that. Because if you get a little itch, if you get a little numbness, a little discomfort, then that's a great opportunity to practice being with what is. If you absolutely need to move for some reason, then just try and do it quickly and then come back to stillness. But at the beginning, I like to do some stretching and get here in my body. So I could really talk for hours about Tonglen and the basis of it, the benefit of it. So I'm going to try not to do that. Try not to do that here. I'm just going to present a neatly wrapped, brief version. If you want, you can start meditating now. I'm also going to be meditating with my eyes open. That's just something that I'm going to be doing in my practice, and just letting my vision go soft, so that I am focused on the periphery of my vision. This training that I attended was with Keith Martin Smith. If anyone is interested, he does trainings on a semi-regular basis for meditation, zazen, and other things. So most of us have been conditioned to avoid discomfort. It might even be instinctual. It might be a safety mechanism as well. But if it is, it gets compounded with all of our conditioning through our lives, through childhood and the rest of our lives. And so when we experience discomfort, the automatic reaction is to try and get away from that. And we do it in a number of different ways. We do it depending on your type. It could be through agreeableness. It could be through alcohol or drugs. It could be through Netflix, binging Netflix. It could be video games. It could be food. You name it. Anything can become an addictive behavior. And addictive behaviors serve the purpose of avoiding what is. Avoiding the tension of discomfort. So in several different meditation practices, one of the primary objectives, if you could call it that, is stop avoiding. Face whatever it is. Face the intense energy of the fear and stay present with it. And you might find that there's actually valuable information or innate wisdom and intelligence in the intensity of the energy. The energy itself is frequently trying to give us a gift, and we are devoting a lot of energy and time into trying to get rid of that thing. So Tonglen and variations on Tonglen is about contacting discomfort in various ways. So I'm going to provide the instruction and then we'll begin. So in Tonglen, whether you want to do it with your eyes open or closed, doesn't really matter to me. What we're doing is we're evoking discomfort. And for most of us, it's going to be preferable and probably more effective to start with smaller things. So let's see, what do I want to do today? I'm going to do shame. So you can do many different variations on Tonglen, choosing a particular manifestation of fear, particular emotion, and focusing in on that. So I'm going to do shame. You can just do raw fear. You can do regret. You can do anything that evokes discomfort. But I'm going to do shame, and so I'm going to guide it with shame. So the idea here is to, if the emotion is not already present, is to evoke it by remembering a time that you felt shame. And the instruction is that it still makes you wince, like it's that potent still. It's not something that you experienced shame in the past and you're over it now. It's like it's still alive in you. So, so we're going to evoke shame. We're going to bring up this memory and actually conjure up the feeling. And again, start with something that's not that intense. It's like a little bit of shame, a mild to moderate amount of shame. It's just going to be easier to start there. And once the emotion is evoked, once the emotional energy is evoked, on the in-breath, you're breathing in shame. You're breathing in that energy. You're inviting it in. You're, in some way, you're magnifying it. You're putting the magnifying glass on it. You're moving closer to it. You're getting intimate with it. And then on the out-breath, you're putting out an opposite emotion, and keep it simple, but it could be forgiveness, love, compassion, things like that. Anything that kind of, I don't know if neutralizes it is the right word, but just the opposite. Just something that you can really feel, really trying to feel the forgiveness, the compassion as you're breathing it out. And you're breathing it out, the forgiveness, you're breathing it out to yourself and to everybody else, all other beings who experience this thing. Humans are a lot more similar than we are different. And so a lot of times we feel really alone in the intensity of an emotional experience. But the reality is that most people experience that as well. They have their own version of it to greater and lesser degrees. So on the out-breath, you're breathing out forgiveness or whatever to yourself and to anyone else who might experience this. Forgiveness, allowance, acceptance, whatever lights you up. So that's it. We're gonna do this for a while, and maybe I'll change it up at some point, do a different emotion. We'll see. So at the beginning, we're just going to get into meditation posture. We're going to get into the breath first. So just allowing yourself to take some deep, conscious breaths. You can do belly breathing. You can fill up your whole upper, middle, and lower lungs. Whatever sort of conscious breathing suits your fancy. just going through the foundational concentration instruction, bringing your attention to the sensation of your breath as it comes in, and as it goes out. Anytime your mind wanders, you notice that you've gotten lost in thought, just acknowledge that and then bring your attention back to your breath, to this moment. And now begin evoking the emotion. I'm going to do shame. Taking your time, remembering the time that you felt ashamed. For some of you, it'll take a few minutes to evoke the emotional energy, and for others, you'll have access to it immediately. As I have said before, I really like sighing, and I think it's particularly helpful in this practice when we are intentionally moving into tension and discomfort, fear, moving into what we're afraid of, what we don't want to face. So I definitely recommend sighing loudly if it's helpful for you to create space or discover space for the intensity of this emotion. And once the emotion is evoked, once that energy is present, you can begin with the practice. breathing in shame, allowing it to fill you up on the in-breath, really encountering it. I feel it a lot in my heart. You might feel it elsewhere in your body. So on the in-breath, inviting it in, allowing it completely, expanding into it. And on the out-breath, breathing out. I'm going to do acceptance for myself. Sending acceptance to yourself, to the place in your body where you feel the energy the most. And to every other being who experiences shame, who experiences this intensity of emotion and all of the resistance that goes along with it. So breathing in, inviting shame, actually discovering that there has been space for it all along. And on the out-breath, acceptance, sending acceptance to yourself, to everyone else. The same instructions apply to this meditation as with others, that if you get distracted, if you go off into storytelling, thought, just see if you can bring it back. Acknowledge what's happening and bring your attention back to the present moment, to your breath as the anchor of your attention, and then resume the Tonglen instruction. Breathing in, allowing shame to fill you up, to take up as much space as it wants. Really moving into it. And as you exhale, acceptance, allowance, forgiveness. If you find yourself going off track with the shame, like maybe at some point you notice more resistance than shame. Actually, the energy of resistance gets so big that it dwarfs the shame. Then you can augment the practice and try it with resistance, with that sensation, experience of resistance. And if at any point this becomes too much, it means that maybe you chose something that's too big, it's too intense. So just switch into your regular meditation practice, whether that's mindfulness, zazen, just coming to the present moment, letting go of Tonglen, and then come back to it later and evoke a smaller degree of shame or whatever the emotion is. So breathing in shame, breathing out forgiveness, love. And the breathing out, trying to keep it simple. 1 or 2 words will do. Again, breathing in shame, letting it fill up your heart, your body, just letting it be, letting it in as completely as possible for where you're at right now. And on the out breath, sending out forgiveness, surrounding yourself with the energy of forgiveness or love or acceptance. And sending it out to everyone else who experiences the exact same thing, the exact same thing, the exact emotional energy, and the intense fear of and resistance to it. And for most people, these emotions and the resistance are a lot stronger than they'd care to admit to themselves. And that's another avoidance strategy. So right now we're just encountering shame fully, being completely intimate with it. On the in-breath, moving into it, expanding into it. And on the out-breath, sending forgiveness, love. And we're going to do the last couple of breaths with this, breathing in shame, encountering it fully. Breathing out forgiveness to yourself and all others who experience this thing. Letting your attention settle on your breath and body. Whatever energies are present in your body right now, Just noticing that there's enough space for them to be there. In the encountering of shame, of the intense emotional energy, and in the becoming intimate with it, there can be a tendency to hang on to it, to cling on to it after the practice is over. So let's just release it right now. Taking a few breaths just like that. Deep breath in. Sighing it out. Really releasing it out of your mouth, out of your throat, releasing it out of your root down into the earth. If you want, you can do this sort of movement where you're just really inviting that energy to exit, to really to flow freely. It doesn't even, it's not getting rid of it. It's just opening up the free flow of energy. Deep breath in. Sighing it out. Deep breath in. Sighing it out. I don't know about you, but I just feel fucking alive. It's this intense emotional energy just flowing through. It's just smooth, no resistance. And that's something we can cultivate through this practice. And Pema says something in that recording that I mentioned. Give it 10 years. Maybe it's not true for everybody. There might be other modalities and ways of cracking yourself open and accessing the energy that's trapped in the very part of ourselves that we resist. But there's some wisdom in give it 10 years. Do this practice and other practices for 10 years and see what happens. You'll likely see shifting before then. You will. Most likely. But if you devote yourself to this practice, to other practices that I teach, you devote yourself to living your life, not just sitting and doing the sitting practice, but living your life like this. And watch what happens. Watch the majesty of yourself unfold. This practice takes courage. It takes being a badass, being a spiritual warrior. It's not easy to sit there and face these things. So, I commend you for doing it, for being willing to go through it. Well, If you've never done it, you didn't know what to expect. So now, if you do it again, I commend you for it. Thank you for joining me.